A few more minutes with Dr. Dennis Cuddy here. His book is Conspiracy, looking at what all of the elitists back over the last century have been thinking and what they've gotten us to and how they've done it using a dialectical process and why this is important. Welcome back to Steel on Steel. John Loeffler here with you. Coming up very shortly, Susan Warner with us. We'll pick up the thread we started 2 weeks ago with Major Stephen Coughlin, if you remember, and last week with Michel Garfunkel from the Jean-Jacques Rousseau Institute. Has anybody learned anything from terrorism, and where is this going as far as anti-Semitism in Europe? We'll take that focus based on a question that I originally said to Monsieur Garfunkel last week on the program. Back to you, Dr. Cuddy. Let me ask a question here. Remember Marilyn Ferguson's book, The Aquarian Conspiracy, in the 80s? You can talk about it in one way, like the whole thing is top-down managed and this tight cabal, blah, 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 or a group of affiliated people that may be in high places who collaborate to go towards what they have are common goals. Which is it more of? Because what you're making it sound like here is that it's something that, well, we got to do this, so let's commission this film and blah, blah, blah. I think they find a lot of like-minded people at different levels, and those people themselves may not have the overall picture. They just approach them. If they're into environmentalism, they approach them in environmental jargon.
Yeah, well, that follows what the old Soviet adage was, just give us one generation. Cecil Rhodes did the same thing. If I say, well, Cecil Rhodes has this plan for world control and use Rhodes Scholars, and so Bill Clinton's a Rhodes Scholar, so he's part of a conspiracy. And I said, well, no, he's not. He's the result of one, because Rhodes said his conspiracy would last 6 decades, from 1891 to about 1950. And then he said, we won't need it anymore. It'll simply be morphed into a network of like-minded globalists. So now we're already into the second or third generation, so that they're being conditioned. But if you watch, it's a step-by-step process dragging us down. For example, in just a couple of months, you'll have a new Fox program called Lucifer, where Lucifer, Satan, comes up from hell, and he's now helping the Los Angeles Police Department solve crime. And he's got a mistress, he's got a counselor, and he's got some little demons coming up trying to persuade him, come on back to hell, Lucifer. No, no, no. So we're changing the image of Lucifer now to a good guy. And so this is a gradual process of debasing not only the culture but the currency. And the next step in the currency we talked about is the world currency by 2018. So you have all this chaos. Even the political campaign, let's say for the Republicans, is a matter of apparent chaos, but it's really not. They don't just have one candidate, the power elite. Jeb Bush is their primary one, but they don't just have one. But let's say he's the one. All right, so all of this looks like one big mess. Well, it does two things. Number one, it diverts attention from their preference, Jeb Bush, so he doesn't get a whole lot of scrutiny, right, because he's only 6% in the polls. So all the scrutiny goes over to Donald Trump, who's making statements that to a lot of people say, yeah, go get him, Donald. But in actuality, if he implemented some of this stuff, a lot of people would freak out. So what it does is safeguards from critical analysis certain individuals, but also it becomes part of the cultural destruction, because what you see is people are starting to think in terms of snippets. It started with Seinfeld. It used to be in the 1950s and 60s, you'd have a show on TV and it'd have a beginning and a denouement and an end, a theme. But then with Seinfeld, you had little blips, like 4 or 5 little skits within a program. And so what they want to do is transform your thinking to be like that. And so if you watch the current political campaign, it's almost like that. Oh, look, Ben Carson, did he really get a scholarship? And then, oh, look, Trump is talking about building a wall. So we flip and flip. It started way back. I mean, Sam Donaldson, I remember when he went after President Reagan about 30, 40 years ago, it was amazing how the press would think, oh, look, the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. Oh, this is a story. They spent about a month. And all of a sudden, you wouldn't hear about it again. I mean, it's like, what, did they go away or something? And then they would have Syria, all the people being gassed. Oh, this is all. Then you wouldn't hear about that. They flip. So they get you thinking in little snippets of time, which also adds to that.
They also get you figuring in sound bites, too, and you can't or like a tweet. How much can you get really?
Yeah, that's it. You're now becoming a tweet mentality. So you keep the public occupied, and you get them down to smaller and smaller sound bites, and the way they think Their ability to critically analyze is basically eliminated. And so what you do is you condition the people to think in a certain way, to react emotionally in a certain way. And so it's that mindless state of subhumanity, is what Aldous Huxley said. Bertrand Russell in 1951 and 53 said, what we'll do is have sounds and verses repeatedly intoned in songs. And so what do we got now? Over and over and over the same sound and words.
It's even that way in churches, by the way. There's very little theology taught in churches. It's just all the same old, I love you and isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, and even praise songs. It used to be you would have old religious hymns which had the theme to them. Well, now the praise songs and praise you, Lord, which is nice. You reduce the thought process, and if they can get you thinking like that, they basically got you because you can control a population like that.
Where are we heading worldwide? Is the goal still some kind of a global socialism? Is that what they're pushing towards?
Yeah, it's a synthesis, Hegelian. You create the friction, the thesis, the antithesis, the problem. You wear the people down. And the obvious choice is world socialism because a relatively few, percentage-wise, the global population is capitalist or communist. About two-thirds of the world is socialist. Even the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, they call themselves. So it's already socialist. Most of the heads of state of Europe are vice presidents of Socialist International as their secondary title. And so that's the logical choice. And you got all this chaos in the region, Syria, because it's leading to this conference that H.G. Wells said would happen in Basra, Iraq. And as Alice Bailey, the Luciferian, said that the World Federation of Nations would be taking, quote, rapid shape by 2025. So they've got this timetable that they have to meet. The goal is the world socialist government, and that's why you have somebody like Obama leading us more and more in that direction.
Well, it's interesting. If people want to read the new book, Conspiracy, Dr. Dennis Cuddy, and it's available where?
Well, it's available through News with Views, where I have periodically a column. The last one I had was on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Newswithviews.com is the website where my articles appear, and they're offering this book titled Conspiracy for sale there. The 800 number, if you want to do that, is 800-955-0116.
Thank you, Dr. Dennis Cuddy. I really appreciate it. The phone number is 1-800-955-0116. The book is Conspiracy, Dr. Dennis Cuddy, Cuddy. Usually when